Hello, I'm Dr. Terry James Gingrass, and this is Dr. G's ADHD Chat, a show trying to make the world safe for ADHDers. I am a clinical psychologist and neuropsychologist, the father of two ADHD kids, and I'm married into a whole tribe of folks with ADHD. So today, I'm also in private practice, and I've been treating ADHD kids, families, adults, executives for over 40 years. And right now, I seem to have found hay fever. Thank you. That's my audio engineer double checking for me. Okay, so if you're not really concerned with one area of medicine, shall we say, or psychology, you probably don't notice transitions, the changes, and that sort of thing. But it does happen. I mean, we've had all kinds of changes in ADHD. Well, first of all, we didn't used to have ADHD. In 1980, that was the first time we got ADD, attention deficit disorder. And then 7 years later, they decided, for reasons best known to themselves, to turn it into attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And that's basically where it stayed since 1987. What's that, about 38 years, I guess. And there have been other changes. So since, now more people are doing research, more people are finding out stuff, more people are noticing changes in treatment that are helpful, and so on. I'm going to talk about four things roughly. You might add a couple as we go along, but one of the things that's changed is now we have a thing called RSD, which is rejection sensitive dysphoria, which, when I first heard it, I thought, why are we okay? But then I thought about it, and I thought about especially my own household. Yeah, that makes sense. I think I have told almost every week that the average ADHD child gets 70 criticisms a day, from parents, teachers, coaches, neighbors, all kinds of stuff. The result of that is that they're real sensitive to criticism. And that's all that fancy title means, is that they, rejection, obvious, critical comment, sensitive, being oversensitive to it, having a real thin skin, as we used to say. And then dysphoria is basically depression. But frequently, especially with little boys, it's expressed in anger and frustration. It is a not happy place. I believe William Dotson, I believe, is the doctor who first started talking about RSD. And I think I shared a couple of episodes ago that I had a little trouble with this because I'm a neuropsychologist as well, and RSD is a neurologic condition. It's not rejection sensitive dysphoria, but the shorthand is still RSD, reflex sympathetic dystrophy, if you must know. Like that one. Then basically what it is that your autonomic nervous system goes crazy, and so all of a sudden, usually it only affects one limb, so might be your leg, and all of a sudden your leg will be all swollen up, or all of a sudden it'll be real hot to the touch, or the other way, and sometimes it'll be real cold. That's your autonomic nervous system is supposed to keep all that stuff balanced, and for some reason it quits working properly. So that slowed me down with this whole RSD thing. It's like, couldn't I at least get initials that weren't somebody else's? But it is significant, and it is one of the things, especially as your kids become teenagers, which is, I think most of us wouldn't go back to our teenage years if we could help it. And with all the physiological changes in your body and everything's changing. If you're a guy, you're starting to grow hair in all sorts of places you never had it before, and your voice does weird stuff, cracks on you, and that sort of thing. Well, add all that to all that 70 critical comments every day for the previous 12, 14 years, and yeah, mix a little testosterone with that, and you've got a problem. The problem with the RSD is that it's not. First of all, it's not formally a diagnosis. It's a syndrome, which is just stuff that people are talking about, but it's not in the book yet. It's not in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual or anything like that formalizes it. It also means the insurance companies aren't going to pay. So, but it is important to know, just so you know what the heck's going on, and you don't think blame it on something else like drugs or whatever. So it's really important to have a constant grip on this whole ADHD is a neurologic condition. Okay, over and over again. It is not being willful. It is not being a behavior problem. It isn't what you expected, but it's the best I can do kind of situation. Okay, next thing that we always seem to have issues with, medications. Now, the medical literature is overwhelmingly in favor of stimulant medication to treat ADHD. And there are tons of parents out there in the world who think, oh my God, speed runs and, that's speed, that's a dangerous drug and da, 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 da. And so there's a lot of resistance to using it. Although I must admit, in my experience, I've gotten more compliments about treatment things when somebody has put their child on stimulant medication, because it does work. It does, not only does it work, but in terms of what you can observe, the behaviors and the emotional stability and the ability to concentrate and all that is way improved. But it also actually changes the brain chemistry and seems to promote the growth of certain areas of the brain that are a little bit smaller in ADHD people than in neurotypical people. So, and it also is way better if you start them at under age 9, and it works. And the whole, it's a gateway drug, they're going to end up hooked on, whatever. Actually, the research supports the notion that you're better off having your child on stimulant medication, and he or she is much less likely to try other drugs, to, become an alcoholic or a cocaine abuser or any of those other things. Basically they feel better once they get used to it on stimulant medications, and they they could fit in easier in society and school and all that stuff, taking their medications. So most of the people I know of who are in their middle age range and have been on stimulant medication most of their lives are very pleased with it and wouldn't want to change a thing. So, and it doesn't lead to addiction. Okay. Then, of course, that's not a 100% statement. That's mostly it does not lead to addiction. And then there's the other question of is medication the only treatment? Well, no, they pretty much everything that's written recommends some kind of therapy, usually behavioral kinds of therapies, along with medication. And the other thing you've got is that ADHD is not just one thing. You can have a little bit of it, or you can have a whole bunch of it. If you've got a whole bunch of it, it's probably going to be better for all hands concerned that you're on medication. But there are lots of people out there who are very successful who say, suppose, I don't know the facts, but they're saying they have ADHD and they're not on medication at all. John Ratey, who was the co-author of Driven to Distraction, says he uses exercise. His co-author, Ned Hollowell, says he uses coffee. They're both psychiatrists at Harvard Medical School, which, is pretty good. And there's no reason particularly to doubt anything they say. And, and I know bunches of people who are, I can look at them and go, these guys are, definitely. And they're not on medication. And I, since I am partially retired and I'm looking at this internet thing pretty heavily, an amazing number of entrepreneurs have ADHD. And I think I've said this before, but when I go to a conference like PodFest or Pod Movement or, any of the others that I go to, I will attract a crowd in a heartbeat when they find out that I do ADHD. And I got a question. What about a friend of mine? And I've got it, but I get that all the time. I can draw a crowd real easily once that gets out. But that also shows that there are a lot of areas in life that ADHDers can do really well in without medication. So it's not an absolute, but, and when the kiddo's totally out of control, you're going to save yourself a lot of heartache by putting him or her on medication. And the other thing is that any other treatment you try takes a huge amount of time, and frequently, some of the cognitive retraining treatments are incredibly expensive and are not covered by insurance at all. So cognitive retraining, and it's the research is a little sketchy on that as well. So if you need them, use them, make your peace with them. It'll make your life in the long term a lot easier, and your child's life. The next thing and this one just I don't know how long it's been an issue, but the ADHD versus autism thing, like personally, I think ADHD is, it's a neurologic condition. It covers a whole bunch of ground, and it can look like a whole bunch of other things. If I am ADHD and I'm getting criticized all the time, I could easily become depressed because I'm not getting any positive reinforcement for anything I do. I just keep getting into trouble, and I'm, Or it could be, anxiety. It's like, I know I'm going to screw up. I know somebody's going to yell at me. I just don't know when it's going to happen. That's probably, that would make most people anxious. So I don't like adding a whole bunch. And used to be, when I started out, ADHD was one thing. Autism was the exact opposite, in the sense that ADHD is, you're inattentive, but you're inattentive because you're paying attention to everything all at once, and you can't stop yourself, and then it just keeps going on, and there's more and stuff, and then that kind of thing. Whereas autism is you get fixated on your favorite thing, whether it's, say, model railroads, which seems to be a positive or a fun thing for a lot of these guys, the ones that are not just on TV shows, but that they have one area that they are just totally consumed by, and they're always on that, even when it's not appropriate. And that That's the autism spectrum thing. Okay. They overfocus. They don't pay attention to social cues around them. And they have some problems usually with communication, sometimes to the extent that they can't communicate at all and need special speech therapy. And they don't read people well. They don't interpret, what's going on. Oh, he's got that funny look on his face. He's angry or not. Then ADHDers are more pay attention to everything. Oh, look over there. Did you see that? Wow, that changed up. And look at that picture's crooked. I noticed that right away when I sat down. That's happened in my office. So, and then they tend to be impulsive, take rapid action. So the overlap is a little stretched, I think, but that's just my opinion. The major difference, I think, is, well, autism is also a spectrum disorder. That is, you can have a little bit of it and you can have a whole bunch of it. And we used to have different names, and now we don't, so I'm not even going to go into it. But ADHDers are, they're on the quick side of things. They're impulsive. Like the guy's book about hunter minds versus farmer minds, and then the Hartman, and then the ADHDers get the job done faster. Maybe they're sloppy. Maybe they forgot a lug on the tire or something, but they are quick to get things done. The autistic people, they can take forever, and they don't always complete things. But it's a different thing. I mean, the behaviors can kind of look up, oh, we ended up with a job not completely done, but it's for completely different reasons. So I'm going to tell you honestly, from my perspective, as a guy who's been doing this for a long, long time, I'm not sure I see the overlap, but and as far as treatments are concerned, the ADHD is gonna your big question is medication, and we're still going to need some kind of therapy. The autistic kid, therapy is almost the only treatment you've got. Sometimes you need to add speech therapy to it. So then my favorite issue with ADHD is it a disability or is it just a difference? Now, what makes it a disability is the system it has to operate in, okay? School systems were not designed for ADHD kids. And, there are some exceptions. And if you've got one, God bless you, and send me the address. But in general, the idea is you come in, you sit quietly for an extended period of time, you do what you're told, and then you leave when you're allowed to. And occasionally you will be given a test, which will consist of you regurgitating the information that the teacher has supposedly put into your head over the course of a week or two, depending on the school. Okay, now that's not the way ADHDers work. That'd be, they bounce around the room. They do. I ran into a couple of teachers. We had a snow day not too long ago, and I ran into a couple of teachers enjoying their day off, taking a little hike with their daughter, and we started talking about that. One of them is in a school that still uses block scheduling. Block scheduling, in my opinion, is a decision that was made to drive ADHD kids and their parents absolutely crazy. If you're not familiar with that, it's somebody studying assembly lines or something. I forget. I don't know exactly how it worked, but the more time you spend, the better the education will be. So everybody started compressing their schedules so that they, instead of having, say, 5 classes a day or 6 classes a day, they have 3 a day, but they're twice as long. Well, guess when my patients used to get into trouble? Yeah, the second hour of that class, they were, they're not letting me move. I can't do anything. I mean, it was a nightmare. And the schedule, the organization problems that ADHDers have. Well, one Monday you would have, usually they call it an A and B schedule or red and blue, whatever the school colors are. But say on the A day, that might be on Monday. But then next week, Monday is a B day. So so you got two sets of books and two backpacks probably. And which one do I take? And sometimes you don't get it right, especially if you're an ADHD or it just, is incredibly stressful. And my teacher acquaintances were saying, yeah, it's really rough on the teachers as well, trying to teach for 2 hours and, without a break. Okay. So like I say, it's a disability because it needs to be a disability. Otherwise you won't get compensatory strategies, 504 plans and so on that let you survive formal education. But honestly, I see it as more as a difference, and your brain doesn't work exactly like mine does. But then again, not too many people's brains work exactly like mine does. But I'm really good at reading. I'm really good at language. I'm really good at writing, and not so good at navigation and just visual spatial stuff. My wife, on the other hand, I joke that she has the brain of a homing pigeon because she can navigate anywhere, and it's easy for her. And the other thing, I noticed the extreme difference between the way the two of our brains work. She was trying to tell me how she does something on the computer, and she had a hard time using language to describe it, and I had a hard time figuring out where the heck that pointer was located on the screen. Oh, it's right here. Anyway, so that's a difference. It's amusing. Occasionally it's frustrating, but that's a difference that we have to deal with. ADHD kids are constantly thrown into this system that wasn't designed for them. And most of them, by the way, are visual spatial thinkers and tend to like hands-on kinds of activities for learning, as in, if you want to learn about geometry, figure out how to put a peak on a roof, using 8-foot lengths of of wood, of pine, the rafters and so on. That's a practical use of geometry. And if you don't believe that, watch Tom Silva on This Old House every once in a while. He uses more math than anybody I have ever seen, and more than most of the guys who come to my house to do any kind of repairs. But that's why he's on TV, I guess. But it is a big deal because you're sort of, if I don't get him diagnosed or her diagnosed and treated and get 504 plans and stuff, they're going to have more trouble in school. But if I do, then they're identified as being disabled. And I guess there are some down things to that. But, frankly, there are an awful lot of ADHDers out there in the world doing pretty well, who've made it through the system. The point is you don't want it to get in their way as far as being able to finish at least high school and go on to higher education, and like I said, a lot of entrepreneurs are doing an awful lot of difficult, complicated technical and communications things, and without medication and just on their own. So it can be done, but we have to, as parents, we have to change our orientation a little bit. You can't, like the orientation I had was you got to get good grades. You get good grades, you get to go to a good college. You get to go to a good college, you get a good job. Doesn't work that way so much anymore. It's more flexible once you get out of school, and so there are way more issues than this but you just, as a parent or as a person with ADHD yourself, you have to kind of follow, get Google calls and so on, and that'll tell you what's going on, because it's changing, and who knows where it's going to end up, but it is changing. And if this resonated at all with you, give me a note, write me a letter, message. I don't even know what the terminology is. Message me. How's that? Does that sound right? And if you have ideas for different content areas you'd like me to talk about, please let me know. I'm Dr. Terry James Gingras. My website is terrygingrasphd.com. You get on there, you can sign up for a free mini interview for coaching if that's an interest of yours. And you think we could work together. And that, the whole purpose of the call is just for us to decide, hey, okay, I can do this, or no, I don't want to do this. So look forward to you, and you can make an appointment right on there. And please, if you make an appointment, show up for it, because then I'm sort of like, well, does that mean he changed his mind? Anyway, you can understand, I'm sure. And so I will see you next time. And meanwhile, we're at that time of year when we want to start and do great stuff. So start and do great stuff. We'll catch you next time.